That's right, everybody. It's a very special Saturday morning edition of Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I thought we didn't do a show on Thanksgiving Day, so we'll make up for it today. It's a weird week. I don't know if anybody wants a recap show on a Saturday, but most of what we talk about on our Monday big weekend recap is from Sunday night and Saturday night. And we don't usually get back to covering much from Friday anyway, other than whatever teams don't play over the weekend, which, by the way, this week is Chicago and Minnesota. So I think those will be the only teams that we talk about today that we won't also cover on Monday. Nope, that's not right, because I don't remember who. Not everybody played yesterday. In any event, doesn't matter. I didn't do the math on that yet. Thank you for tuning in. That's the important part. I'm Dan Besbris, at Dan Besbris on Twitter, DanBesbris. I am Old Man Squad over on the new Blue Sky Network. Extremely flattered, by the way, to be added to the Shams Bot Blue Sky Starter Pack, along with other NBA notables. Our good buddy Adam King is in there. Josh Lloyd is in there. Alex Rickleen is in there. And it got tweeted out by Mark Cuban. So that was cool. I don't like when you're in a niche fantasy space the way that we are, not that many celebrity things happen where like you get bumped by someone with 1 million followers or something like that. So very cool. That means that we now actually have kind of a presence over on Blue Sky. And so I'll be continuing to cross-post everything from Twitter over there. So no matter how you want to follow, I'll make sure that you guys get the vast majority of content that we put out. Let's start by bringing up a whole bunch of eggplants, which is me just being silly here. But this is basically what happened last night. These are the big things from last night that we're going to be covering on today's show. Vasilije Micic filling in for LaMelo Ball, DeAndre Hunter's hot run, Yves Missi playing better with the not the starters, but the sort of more traditional starters, guys that are good at basketball. Desmond Bane's very poor run. Goga Bitadze continuing to be the center. Mike Conley getting full starters minutes again. Deni Avdija's fill-in, and then Dalton Knecht has been a Goliath of late. That's the main stuff we're going to be talking about on today's show, with Dalton Knecht probably the most fun on that list, because it really, at least right now, it feels like he has the potential to be a long-term force as a starter. So that's a pretty big deal. And so we'll just kind of start today's show by reminding everybody that if you're going to do anything on this holiday weekend, Saturday morning, it's make sure that someone has rostered Dalton Knecht. Also, I couldn't help but notice that in one of my leagues, Devin Vassell got dropped. This is the kind of stuff that you never expect to happen. And it sort of puts everything in perspective. These shows we tailor so hard to typically intermediate leagues and higher, not all expert leagues, but this type of stuff happens. He's 86% rostered, but one of those 14% of leagues where he's not is actually one that I'm in. So always be on the lookout. That's like maybe the PSA of the morning. And I'm not talking about Devin Vassell in particular. I'm just talking about, like, in general. See what everybody else has done in your league, because if I was paying closer attention to the drops 2 days ago, I would have seen Vassell get dropped. I didn't even see it. Like, he's been on the wire for a couple of days already. Not addable because it's a fab league. But that's crazy. These things happen, though. Yeah, there's lunacy in the background, but it's a weekend morning, so what the hell did you guys think was going to happen? This show is brought to you by our friends at Bet Online, and this Thanksgiving holiday weekend, why not head to the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting, Bet Online. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with constant real-time odds and action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. Plus, they've got the largest selection of odds on everything from football to NBA and college basketball to NHL, UFC, and boxing. Head to the website today to get in on the action and see why Bet Online, Marblemouth, is America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. Let's switch over now, and let's go through yesterday's card because that's got the whole meat of the thing. We'll begin at the top. The Knicks and the Hornets. That was the morning game, and it played like a morning game. Interestingly, in the post Thanksgiving universe, yesterday was like one of the most prominent under days that we've had so far this year, at least early in the card. And then you got a couple of them later on, but like New York, Charlotte went under by whatever it was, 20 some odd. And we haven't talked much about sports betting. Atlanta, Cleveland was under by 20 something. New Orleans, Memphis was under just by a nose. And then you start to get into the more traditional start times, and it goes over, under, over, under. It's split up a little bit more evenly. But it's something to keep in mind with these weird, like, post-holiday start times. It does tend to favor the bold. No, the rusty. Anyway, been a nice run here for Jalen Brunson to get him back in the position where he probably should have been all along. I think he's, where the hell's Brunson now? Like around 40-ish? Yeah, he's somewhere near 40. And now you're probably going to see a little bit of a leveling off. His percentages are closer to what you'd expect they would be. The assists are back up where you expected them to be. He might continue this hot run, which would be fine because then he would move from a buy low into a sell high valuation. But I think we're pretty close to where he ought to be now. Josh Hart continues to be a potential sell high. His shooting's been outstanding so far this year, and his rebounding something you knew you were going to get. But the other stuff has been sort of a little bit out over his skis. And I mean, we talked about it leading up to the season. I'm not a Mikal Bridges guy this year. He was someone I thought we should avoid in drafts because I thought there was a chance that you got like the perfect negative confluence of, oh, well, he's going to go back to having the usage he had in Phoenix, but his percentages are going to stay closer to what they were in Brooklyn. And there's been a little bit of that, although he's also come out and said, like, look, I'm just playing terribly right now, and he can't make a free throw. He doesn't make shots. The steals are not great, but like not that far off from what you'd expect. So all that to say, while I might not be a Mikal Bridges fan this season, he is actually a buy low right now. He's number 112 on Basketball Monster and 9-cat. That probably comes up into the 80s and 90s if I had to guess, which I realize is not that big of a leap. But if you can get him for someone that's sort of similarly valued right now, that would be the time to do it. It's so funny to me that Devin Vassell is number 108 in 22 minutes a game and somebody dropped him. How could somebody drop Devin Vassell? Someone's getting bad intel. Over on the Charlotte side, no LaMelo Ball. We don't know exactly how long that's going to be. It's being listed as calf soreness, which I guess for like recovery period is probably a good sign. Vasilija Micic had 8 assists filling in. We saw him fill in a bit at point guard last year. He has 9 category holes in his fantasy game because there's not much in the way of defensive stats. He doesn't score all that well, and his field goal percent is typically low. Turnovers also a bit on the high side, so it's very much an assists-only stream, kind of the way that Moussa Diabate is a rebounds and defensive stats stream. Unfortunately, he went to the free throw line 3 times in this game yesterday, and he missed all of them, but he did actually score 6 points, so that was something. One of the worst lines of the night because of those missed free throws and the 2 turnovers, but if you need rebounds and steals and blocks, he's still an okay option there. Tijan Salon played 35 minutes, had 14 points and 8 rebounds, and I could not possibly convince myself to care about that. Josh Green had 15 points on 12 shots. He's a fringe-level guy, and Cody Martin has been borderline playable lately as well. But when you get into a team where there's like 6 borderline playable guys, your best course of action is probably to just go look at another team. Sorry to the guys at Basketball Monster. I'm flashing their Friday post-game recap notes up on the screen. Oh, well, that's free publicity for our buddies over there like Josh and Matt. Is Kyle still over there? I don't even remember. In any event, it's actually like I'm realizing in the moment, in real time, that's probably good for them. You can get that from those dudes. They do it for free on every Friday on their box score page. The Basketball Monster box score page is my favorite because it has no frills. It's just data. Boom, right in our faces. It's a great website. Atlanta beat Cleveland because for some reason the very middling Hawks team has the Cavaliers number this year. I don't know, man. Cavs are 17-3, and I believe 2 of those losses have been to the Hawks, right? Are they back to back? They're not back to back, are they? Yeah, they're back to back. Beat them in both spots. Darndest thing. Whatever. You can read all you want into it. Donovan Mitchell was basically shut down by Dyson Daniels. He'll be fine. Ty Jerome played 18 minutes. This was the fear there. It's why I don't typically play guys that are low on opportunity and high on just being hot. Ty Jerome is an interesting player to have if Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell has to miss a ball game, but there's really not much with the Cavs, so let's keep rumbling along here. This was the rare game where both Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu put up decent numbers. Capella won the lion's share of the minutes. He's been the better of the two for about the past 2 weeks. Number 125 over that stretch as a punt free throw big. That's kind of always been the MO there. So to that end, I'll say this. If you're punting free throws, Capella is a play right now. If you're not, I still wouldn't. Okongwu has not really been a play since a very hot start to the year. So he's a drop for me in all formats. And Capella is a drop for me in all formats other than punt free throw. You guys know me. I continue to like DeAndre Hunter. I think he's actually going to have a half decent year. I don't think it's going to be great. And that, of course, is sort of the rub here with DeAndre. His stat profile looks like a top 100 range guy. But if he just keeps doing what he's been doing over an entire year, enough of these other guys, and like you'll have to pull out the dudes that are inadequately ranked because they played like 3 games and everybody else has played 20. But like right now, DeAndre Hunter is number 83 in relatively sustainable numbers based on field goal, free throw percent, sort of historical trends for him. He's making a few more 3-pointers this year. That's one of the big differences. And also just that there's more opportunity this year with DeJounte Murray gone. They need a guy that can go score a bucket every once in a while, and he can score a bucket. So I like DeAndre Hunter. I think he can be a top 100 guy, and that is, again, not a thing that grows on trees as much as we'd like to have guys that are all better than that. Sometimes they're not there. Bogdan Bogdanovic played just 24 minutes in this game. I do wonder if it had something to do with the fact that they've got a back-to-back and if they're like trying to ease him into things, or if it just, he didn't play quite as well in this one, so they went a different direction. I still think that Bogey needs to be rostered. Risa Shea saw a couple extra minutes. None of, like, as far as the lineups that were working, I mean, Bogdanovic was in some of the better lineups yesterday. And the game wasn't that close down the stretch. Also of note, like even the big minutes guys, Trae Young was at 34.5. Same with Dyson Daniels. Jalen Johnson was at 35. If this game came down to the wire, you might have seen an extra minute or two there, and there might have been the same thing for Bogdanovic, who I think both Bogdanovic and Hunter probably should be rostered. Pelicans slowly inching back towards health at this point. Slowly inching their way back towards health. CJ McCollum had 30. Trey Murphy had 21. DeJounte Murray had 21. All 3 of those guys are must-roster players. I would be blown away if any of them was on the wire, but I was blown away that Devin Vassell was on the wire, so I guess crazier things have happened. Quick check, just make sure. Not interested in Javonte Green, not interested in Brandon Boston. There's just not enough for those guys to do, and there sort of wasn't ever. Elfrid Payton's time in the sun, short and glorious, is also done. Yves Missi is the interesting name right now. He had a double-double with a steal and 3 blocks. He's not a good free throw shooter, but it does seem like he's better with better players around him. He can go back to just being what they kind of wanted him to be from the outset, which was be a young dude who can get up, go hustle, get rebounds, get steals, get blocks, let the veterans do their thing. And I don't know if Zion ever shows back up this year, so it's possible that Yves Missi could end up being a rest of season guy, and there will be bumps along the way. But it's a pretty clear correlation for him between like being competent with or without the star dudes. So I think Missi is an ad at this point if you haven't already. I had some folks on Twitter tell me that he's been added in every league, and I can assure you, while he's might have been added in your league, he's number 187 on the year. He was 14% rostered going into yesterday, and he's still only 23% rostered. So he's still out there. He's still available in a lot of leagues. Go check to see if yours is one of them. Yves Missi, one of the big notes from yesterday, belongs on teams. Over on the Memphis side is a game that, again, now, the final score was close enough. Grizzlies are playing their main guys, and they're trying to keep the minutes in check a little bit. John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. are must-start guys. Scottie Pippen is a drop. Santi Aldama had 20 points on only 9 shots. That's just not a number that's going to keep up. So if you can get something for Aldama, you should do it. Otherwise, he will, I can pretty much promise you, trend towards a drop, especially if Zach Edey shows back up again, which word is he's getting close. The guys that you all want to know about, the ones that the questions keep coming in, are Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the hell to make of Marcus Smart. He's had 2 good games in a row. His minutes are trending up a little bit, but I don't know that he ever gets all the way to full starters minutes this year. Thinking back to the very beginning of the season, first game of the year, he played 26 minutes, and then 20, and then 21, and then 25. So I have no idea what the hell Marcus Smart is supposed to be this season. The more I watch the Grizzlies, the more I think he's probably not going to be a 9-category must-roster dude. He's 24% rostered. It's funny that he's more heavily rostered than Yves Missi, but that's the way it is. Would I grab him after 2 good games? Nah, I'm not really racing out. And then Desmond Bane is, in my opinion, probably the easiest buy low target like in the history of fantasy basketball. He's playing 27 minutes a game, so some of that is like injury recovery stuff. Shooting 41% from the field, 77 at the free throw line. He's just not that heavily involved right now, but he will be because he's one of their top 3 guys, and he's not going to get outshot every night by Jalen Wells and Marcus Smart and Santi Aldama. It's going to shift. He's still Desmond Bane. He didn't just magically turn into a bad basketball player. And he can be had for pennies right now. Pennies on the dollar. I know this because I'm in a league where the group chat is like, I'll take anything for Desmond Bane. So go find someone else. Desmond Bane is ranked 156th right now. You might be able to get him for like freaking Dalton Knecht. You might be able to get him for Colin Sexton or Alex Sarr or Draymond Green or Jalen Green or Isaiah Stewart or Drew Holiday or Jeremy Grant when he comes back. Do it. Just do it. You can pretty much go up to anyone inside like the 80 range, and I would absolutely do it with my eyes closed, not even thinking about it. There might be like 1 or 2 guys like a Paul George that I wouldn't do it, where, other guys that are buy low situations. And by the way, I'm not a big Paul George dude, but 86, like that's a buy low. Once you get inside the top 75, you start to have to think about it each way. But like almost everybody outside of that is an auto yes for me. Just read the board. Derek Lively, yes. Malik Monk, Benedict Mathurin, Julius Randle, Naz Reid, Mike Conley, Austin Reeves. They're almost all auto yeses. And Reeves had a really bad ball game. He's a horrible matchup against the Thunder because Reeves's handles are the thing that he's constantly trying to improve upon, and the Thunder are just menaces. Not the point here. Go try to trade for Desmond Bane. That's maybe the biggest piece of news from this one. It's one of the easiest buy lows I think I've ever given out. So go try to make it happen. Orlando beat the zombie Nets because the Nets were winning way too many games with their actual guys out there. Brooklyn, you jerks. They were 9-10. It's supposed to be a tank here. They're 9-10 before this loss yesterday. Like, they're legitimately decent, the Nets are. Franz Wagner just keeps rolling. He is destroying everybody right now, and he's up to number 11, past Damian Lillard and Kevin Durant with this big ball game. And he is also one of the easiest sell highs that I've ever seen in my life. KCP had another good one. I'm not going to buy in on that. There's probably a little bit of a heater thing happening, but don't. Goga Batadze, you can keep streaming. This is a particularly good matchup for him, for whatever that's worth. He would have played more, by the way, if it wasn't for the blowout. Wendell Carter Jr. is like a top 125 power forward in full minutes. So if you need that, go for it. If you don't, you don't. And then Jonathan Isaac minutes were lower again because of the blowout. He probably would have gotten another 3 or 4 later in this ball game, but they're going to try to preserve his body. And he still managed to get some good stuff done. A 3-pointer, 3 defensive stats. I mean, it truly is wizardry with Jonathan Isaac because he can put up fantasy stats in almost no time. And now that he's playing back-to-backs, he belongs on every roster. Jonathan Isaac, must-add dude. For the Nets, and you guys are going to hate this analysis, I don't want anything to do with these guys. Dennis Schroeder, Cam Thomas, both on the shelf. Those are the more important ones of the guys that were hurt. But Dorian Finney-Smith and Noah Clowney were also out among guys that are like in the rotation. And so then everybody yesterday was like, should I go Zaire Williams? Should I go Jalen Wilson? And Nick Claxton got ruled in late yesterday. Claxton and Cam Johnson ended up being the only Nets and Jake Milton, by the way, ended up being the only Nets to have decent basketball games. And that's why you don't mess around with sort of wank backups unless you know exactly what's about to happen. So let's hope Dennis Schroeder is back quickly. This was a personal reasons thing, which I guess as far as reasons to be out, we don't know. He might miss another one. Cam Thomas is out at least another 2.5 weeks, probably a little bit more than that. In the meantime, we'll see what happens. But when Schroeder comes back, you go Schroeder, you go Cam Johnson, you go Nick Claxton. I don't know that I would go farther than that. Dorian Finney-Smith would be kind of a maybe if you can catch him on the day that Ben Simmons is out. And if Nick Claxton rests at the same time, then that's how you kind of get a little Dorian Finney-Smith stuff going. Clippers and Wolves had a nice little, late 80s style basketball game where the Clippers shot 43%, the Wolves shot 41%, and Minnesota somehow prevailed. James Harden, Ivica Zubac, the only safe plays for Clippers right now. Norman Powell is very close. He's been questionable twice and then ruled out twice. This is what happened with Wendell Carter Jr. I'm assuming Norm will be back, hopefully by the next one, which is when? Tomorrow? Yeah, they're hosting Denver tomorrow, and then they're off, and then they've got a back-to-back and then 3 days off. And again, we don't have the schedule yet for weeks 8 and 9 because they got to know who's in the NBA Cup tournament, and then they can match up everybody else that isn't. So in the meantime, you just go Harden and you go Zubac, and Derrick Jones Jr. was the guy we were sort of like, could it maybe be a nut? Nope. Kevin Porter Jr. has 17, 7, and 3. He's a points league guy. If you're going to buy in after one good game of percentages, then you haven't, and you don't remember Kevin Porter from a couple years ago. He's going to be a low field goal, low free throw guy, high turnovers. He'll get you some counting stats, but I want nothing to do with that path. And then for Minnesota, the big things there, Dante DiVincenzo, he's been bad. Minutes have been trending the wrong way as the Wolves have tried to go to their more trusted lineups. DiVincenzo's a drop. He's been flat out bad. What's his rank now? It's not good. 204. Yeesh. A cold chill runs up the spine. I thought he was going to be like the Warriors iteration of Dante, so 100 to 115, 125 range, which still wasn't a guy I was attacking in drafts. Because typically late in drafts, you want to go for take the big upside swing guy. But this is way worse than that. Mike Conley, meanwhile, played 33 minutes. I know the assists weren't there, but that's because nobody could make a shot around him. The minutes are all that matters. And Conley is, at this point now, basically one serviceable game from being inside the top 100. He is number 109 right now, despite still shooting just 33% from the field. And it's not going to be one big game that fixes it because he's not a high enough volume dude for that to be the thing. But he's going to have a month where he just quietly shoots 48%. No one even really notices because he's going to go 4 for 8, 4 for 9, 4 for 8, 4 for 9 over and over again. And then all of a sudden that 33% is going to be 42. And you're going to go, hey, how the hell did Mike Conley end up at number 80? That's how. So Conley's an ad / hold. We've had him as a hold basically all season long. Naz Reid is a hold. finally got some defensive stats, so that's something. Rudy Gobert played 43 minutes. That's why Nas didn't get to do any more in this one. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had a nice game. Ignore it. Jaden McDaniels' minutes were down because Nickeil Alexander-Walker basically was having a really nice ball game. But then McDaniels actually played better in this one, so go figure. And he's been good enough to warrant a roster spot lately after a very bad start. I'm holding McDaniels a little bit longer. We'll see how that goes. It's not forever, but it's something. And then Anthony Edwards was, frankly, kind of due. He'd been on a pretty good shooting run. He's still a second rounder on the year. He continues to lead the league in three-pointers. And I don't know if that's the best thing. Oh, well, I guess if you're going to shoot him well. Boston beat Chicago in a high-scoring game. Peyton Pritchard went nuts after Derek White went down. Today, by the way, this would have been the day. I don't know why the Celtics did this the way they did. I thought that Boston would start to alternate who plays between. Oh, okay. So let's wind the clock back. This is why there's all these notes on them. Boston is now going into a 5 games in 7 days stretch, starting tomorrow, Sunday. They got Cleveland, Miami back-to-back. Then they play Detroit Wednesday. Then they've got a Milwaukee, Memphis back-to-back next Friday, Saturday. So, by the way, great time to have Celtics if they're not the guys that rest on back-to-backs, or Derek White right now, who left with a sore right foot. Hopefully that doesn't keep him out for too long. Peyton Pritchard is in a fantastic spot over this stretch because someone's getting rest. Drew Holiday, at some point the defensive stats are going to come around. I don't know how they haven't yet, but they will. And somehow he's still an 11th rounder despite basically no defensive stats so far this year. But the important stuff here is the Celtics are likely to rest Porzingis and Horford on the opposite days of the back-to-back. So I know Al Horford is by and large a drop at this point, but with Boston going into 2 back-to-backs in the next week, this would be the time to hold on to him and assume, by the way, he's not going to be this bad in 25 minutes most games anyway. So, there's a pathway where it's not a mess all the time. But if you're just looking at sort of the plug-and-play side, games cap folks, you're going to get 2 good Horford games in the next week. So hold him for at least that stretch. And then if you want to drop, I hate to say it, but you probably can. Because Big Al was always going to be a guy until Porzingis came back. And then, like we talked about, you can hold him if you want to do the plug-and-play thing, but maybe you don't. I don't know how he keeps doing it, but Vooch rolls along, moving up the board. He's number 9. Dude's shooting 58% from the field this year. It's otherworldly. Josh Giddey, slight improvement, but the minutes just aren't there. And Lonzo Ball being back isn't going to help any of these guys. Lonzo played 22 minutes, by the way. Once he clears 24, I'm picking him up in games cap leagues. I know he didn't score much, and he's not going to score much, but he boards, he assists, he steals. I think, and we don't know what Lonzo has left in the tank, so that's the other part of it. He might just be a shell of himself. But if there's any part of that old Lonzo left, 24 minutes is top 100 range for him. They may never push him past that mark, but keep an eye on it. Toronto, we're starting to sort of narrow it down here a little bit. Ochai Agbaji filling in for Grady Dick had another efficient ball game, but that's kind of a dangerous play to make with him. I think I would just go Scotty Barnes and Jakob Poeltl and 9-cat, and then RJ Barrett, who had a better game here, but he's more of a points league guy overall. For the Miami Heat, Butler, Adebayo, and Hero, those are the easy calls to make. Good to see Jimmy Butler actually make his free throws in this one. Terry Rozier played 25 minutes. I think they're bringing him along slowly. I don't have the exact report on Rozier, but we know he's on a minutes cap while working his way back from a foot thing, and it seems like he's pretty much jammed in at 25 minutes right now. If that can trend back up into the 30s like it was at the beginning of the year, then I think you're going to have a guy that needs to be rostered. And he's getting dropped in a lot of spots. So keep an eye on Rozier. I don't know that you need to do anything right this second. But if you see those minutes trend up towards 27, 28, then you'll know we're getting closer. And that's when you make your move. I think we're probably a game or two away from the Terry Rozier pounce. And hopefully he's bad for the next couple of games, because then he'll end up on wires in more leagues, and then we can go get him in those leagues. And it's not that I want Terry Rozier badly on my basketball team. I just think that he's going to trend up to a place where he will deserve to be played in fantasy, even if it's 100 range. So I think he's actually going to come on the way up, but we don't have to do anything today. That's the nice thing about it. You can just wait and see. If he's stuck at 25 minutes for the next 2 weeks, then maybe this is just what they want him to do. But I think it's trending up slowly. They're bringing him along off the foot thing, which feels like maybe it's turning out to be a little bigger than they let on. And let's see how it trends. Let's just see how it goes. Put him on your very close watch list. Cade Cunningham back for the Pistons, and man, that team can play some defense. Kudos, Detroit, having an actual reasonable offseason and good coaching staff. They're 9-12, which again, not world beaters, but 4-5 at home is pretty good. Pistons are fine. Malik Beasley is the scariest dice roll streamer in fantasy, and I already got yelled at for calling him, for saying that he's about to fall off a cliff. Guys, we've been down the Malik Beasley path before. First of all, he's number 142 on the season as a whole, despite making 3.5 3-pointers and scoring 16 points a game in 29 minutes. And the reason is his field goal percent can be atrocious. Lately, it's been pretty good. And that's why this is workable. Last 2 weeks, he's shooting 49% from the field, over 4 3-pointers a game. I have this lovely bridge, and it's for sale. If you think Malik Beasley is going to shoot 49% from the field for the entire year, he's just not. He's a career 42.5 guy. Last year in Milwaukee, he had probably the best looks he's ever going to get, and he shot 44% from the field. So how does this? It doesn't equate. It doesn't add up. And Tim Hardaway Jr. has been pretty bad. Beasley's outplayed him. But the reason that Beasley's getting all these extra minutes is because he's been hot. He did nothing yesterday besides hit 5 3-pointers. That's an empty stat line. But he's going to get a lot of ads because 5 3-pointers jumps off the page. Just know, if you can sell him, you should. And if you can't, if you want to ride it, okay, be my guest. But I'm not going to do it because we know what the other side of this looks like for Beasley. It's not a surprise. He went on a couple of runs just like this just last year in Milwaukee. And yet, he didn't end up anywhere close to the top 100 because, at the end of the day, he's Malik Beasley. Jalen Duren had 14, 12, and 4 blocks, just 26 minutes, though, and I feel like that's probably where he's going to stick for now. This is why I warned you guys about Isaiah Stewart. He's never been a 4 blocks per 20-minute guy, so you knew the other shoe was going to drop there. Duren, I think, is a guy you try to trade off a good ball game like this one. Can you get a top 100 center back? I probably would do it. Sell when you can. Pacers, Halliburton wasn't bad. Team as a whole was pretty bad, and Halliburton was at least okay. Jarris Walker had 5 steals off the bench. I don't know, man. I think you just play Halliburton, Siakam, and Miles Turner and call it a day. TJ McConnell's been kind of close lately. Oh, sorry, Benedict Mathurin you can add in as well. If Aaron Nesmith ever shows back up again, we'll reassess what Benedict Mathurin's doing. But for the moment, just play those main 4 guys and don't worry about the other stuff. TJ McConnell, close, but not quite. Kings lost again, Rutrow. Kings are a mess. They're 9-11, and there's a lot of time left. They're only a game and a half back of the last play-in spot in the Western Conference, and I do think that they'll ultimately get there. You'll see probably the Spurs fall out as the season goes. I don't know who the hell's... The West is crazy. There's 12 teams fighting for 10 spots in the West right now, and I don't think the Spurs are going to go into a traditional tank because they're actually kind of decent. They're 8-4 at home, mind you. So I don't know. I guess there's no guarantee that the Kings make it, but I think they probably still will. No DeMar and Kevin Huerter left early in this game, so you got even more Malik Monk. He's going crazy in this fill-in role right now, which is fantastic for him. But hopefully DeMar comes back, and hopefully the Kings can get any kind of three-point shooting besides Malik Monk in this ball game. Their three-point shooting's been bad. Keegan Murray's been atrocious lately, and Kings Twitter is turning on poor Keegan. He's number 120. He's a little bit of a buy low. Or you just wait and see if he gets dropped, which I don't think is that far away from happening. What's his rostership showing right now? Keegan is 90%. Yeah, I guess he hasn't not getting dropped in that many places. He probably should be getting dropped because he's been bad. Same kind of thing though. If you can get Keegan Murray, it's not as big leaping. It's the same exact discussion I had with Mikal Bridges. These were not guys that I wanted on draft night. We talked about it all preseason long. I have no Keegan Murrays on any of my teams. I have no Mikal Bridges on any of my teams, meaning you guys probably shouldn't either if you were following my board. But they're also worse than even my low projections had them. So if you can get them cheap, you go do it. And maybe we can do a different show about that at some point. Let's just hope we see DeMar soon. For the Blazers, no Jeremy Grant. I don't know what the hell's going on with his knee thing. They haven't really given a timeline on him. No Jeremy Grant, no Donovan Clingan for a while, no Robert Williams with a concussion, no Scoot dealing with this quad thing. So that meant Deni Avdija got to go crazy. 37 starters minutes as kind of like the prime usage guy besides Anthony Simons, I guess. Avdija playing point forward is great for him. You can play Shaedon Sharpe if you're punting field goal. I've been trying to tell you guys this, and nobody believes me. Shaedon Sharpe is going to score, and he's not going to do a whole lot else. Punt field goal guy. So not really for me. Toumani Camara, typically a steals streamer. He's just fine enough with all of these guys on the shelf. He's the borderline one. Ayton, obviously a start. Simons, who I don't like much, but he's a start. Delano Banton, 5 steals, kind of floating the line. So nope. Avdija is a must injury replacement guy right now. And I feel like it's pretty heavily tied to Jeremy Grant's absence. So we'll see what the Blazers lineup looks like in their next ball game. But I mean, kudos, Portland won again. Good job, Blazers. OKC beat the Lakers in a low-scoring affair. Lakers kind of did what they needed to do in this game, but it wasn't enough. Lou Dort hit 4 of those rainbow three-pointers in only 24 minutes. He had some foul stuff going on. I mean, I don't know. Lou Dort, to me, ends up as a filler. That's where I sit with him. So I think you're Jalen Williams, Shea, and Hartenstein, and that's probably where I would leave it. I love to see the 37 minutes from Isaiah Hartenstein. It's going to be glorious. I do still think we should keep one eye on Alex Caruso when he comes back from his hip thing, because I don't think these other guys are the answer. They haven't decided that Caruso is yet either, but feels like he's better than those dudes. Anthony Davis didn't take that many shots, and everybody was killing him for not taking that many shots, but they doubled him. So he had 7 assists. I thought AD actually played a really nice, clean basketball game. And the Thunder executed what they wanted to do defensively, which was don't let AD destroy them on the interior. And the Lakers took what was given. So D'Lo had a nice game because he was open more. D'Lo had a really nice game, by the way. Dalton Knecht had another really good game. Austin Reeves did not. This, again, is like the teams that have really good ball pressure are the teams that ruin poor Austin Reeves. He also hurt his back midway through the third quarter, but I don't think we can blame that for his poor game. This is just a bad matchup for him. And then LeBron's been bad lately. I do love me some LeBron, just like in general, because he's a cyborg and I don't know how he's doing it, but he's been god-awful the last couple of weeks. Last 2 weeks, he's number 165. 5 turnovers a game, 46% high volume from the field, 70% at the free throw line. He's basically been a points league guy the last 2 weeks. He'll get it squared away. It'll be fine, but this is a bad stretch for LeBron. Is that the most turnovers in the league over the last 2 weeks? No, he's behind Brandon Ingram per game, at least. But he's out in front of Trae Young and LaMelo Ball. Those guys are doing more with the... I don't know, like LeBron looks slow the last 2 weeks. For the first time maybe ever on offense. He's looked slow on defense for a few years now, but on offense, Is it a buy low on LeBron? I don't know. There's so much name recognition there. What is a buy low with LeBron? Could you get him for like a top 40 guy? I guess it's worth exploring. Dalton Knecht has to be the big news for the Lakers. The last couple of ball games, move him back into the starting lineup. He's been great. He brings size, even if he's not very good defensively. There's size there that, sorry, Cam Reddish, I know you guys might be about the same height, but Dalton's just sort of a bigger dude. So he rebounds better. And once again, it took a week, but the Lakers figured out that Cam Reddish is not good at basketball. Cam Reddish played 13 minutes in this game and went 0 for 1 with zeros everywhere. Unacceptable to have that kind of an offensive liability in your lineup. LeBron's just got to be better. But if you're looking at the Lakers from a fantasy standpoint, I like what I'm seeing from D'Lo. He's starting to get his confidence back. I think he's realizing that he's good enough. And with Reddish getting sidelined and Knecht moving into the starting lineup, that means that the second unit now needs even more D'Lo. And I don't want to say that like all is finally well with the world, because he's still ranked 164th after one of the worst games that he's ever had in his life. But the last two games for Russell have been a lot better, and this is why you kind of held on or bought for nothing. And that is your yesterday card, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys enjoyed this special bonus Saturday edition of Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. We will be back again tomorrow with your Week 7 preview, and it's weird because some websites, I think Yahoo's one of them, I don't know if the other sites did as well, there's some weak combinations going on where like they mushed Week 8 in because it looks like there are no games on Week 8, but there are games on Week 8. They just haven't been scheduled yet. Right? So they will be soon once we know who advances into the next stage of the NBA Cup, but they couldn't schedule Week 8 until they knew which teams had to play each other. So they'll get the, group A, B, C, D, whatever. They'll get the teams that are advancing. They'll get the wild cards. They'll get the, whatever it is, the 10 teams that advance. I forget the exact way this thing breaks down. And then the other 20 teams, they'll just figure out who needs to play each other, who doesn't have a game scheduled. I believe it's all within your conference because that's where you can play either 3 or 4 games against a particular opponent. But on the calendar, it looks like everybody has 10 days off, but it's really only like 3. Week 8 is going to have games. Week 9 is going to be the halfer week. So check your league to find out how long your next scoring period is. It could be something very odd. And again, we just don't know who's playing who and when those things are going to happen, but it's likely to be some very heavy days on the non-NBA Cup days and then some lighter days on the NBA Cup days, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it made sense. I don't know that it did. Hit that like button, YouTubers. That's actually really important, especially, for these weird weekend shows. Subscribe if you like what we've been doing here at Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. And if you're listening, I guess it'd be listening on Apple or Spotify, those 5-star reviews really do go a long way. Thank you to everybody on social that helped out with dropping reviews. That's been incredibly useful as well. It's just to keep kind of pushing us up the board, even now, because basketball is moving out of the spotlight again now that we're away from draft season. Football retakes over everybody's collective conscience. With your help, we can sort of stay in the hot shows group, and that's maybe the most important thing of all. So thank you all. You guys have been incredibly helpful. I'm Dan Vespers on Twitter. We'll obviously do stuff there all day and all night. Old Man Squad over on Blue Sky. Old Man Squad Fantasy on Instagram. And we'll be back with a weekly preview show tomorrow on Sunday. Adios for now.